Hello everybody and welcome back into the fort. My name is Tyler Saves Ya Bucks and I am here to talk about Aetherdrift. Listen, I know that's probably pronounced Aetherdrift, and I also know that we are speeding quickly away from that set as we move closer and closer to Tarkir Dragonstorm. But let's take one little pit stop before we get all the spoilers and everything and take a look back at our bulk piles from Aetherdrift at some cards that are probably playable in your decks that you want to give a try to. I'm going to cover a handful right now. I've released 3 articles actually for my bulk up series on Commander's Herald for this set, and I was very surprised at how useful a lot of these cards were. I understand if the themes and you know, the race car thing isn't your jam, it wasn't necessarily mine, but I just kept reading card after card and thinking, wow, this is actually very good and it goes in a lot of decks. So I want to highlight some of those, but there's a bunch more in those articles, which I will link to right now or something like that. So let's get moving onto the first card. I'm going to try not to do too many racing puns. I'm already punned out when it comes to that. The first card I want to talk about today is Diversion Unit. It is an artifact flying 2/1 for 2 blue, 2 blue, 1 and a blue. It's a robot, and it's giving Solemn Simulacrum a run for its money as Sad Robot. You can see the little tears coming down. It's quite sad, actually. But it has an activated ability that you can pay a blue to sacrifice this creature, counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays 3. And the flavor text, declarative, goodbye. Listen, I like that this is board presence. I like that some people don't enjoy this type of thing, but I do. Known information. So this can attack and this can block and do all those things, which is great. But it's also known information for your opponents and people that you might be teaming up with in Commander that, hey, I have a counter right here, so you should probably leave my stuff alone. Or, you know, we think someone's going to board wipe. We don't want them to board wipe. Hey, I have an answer right here. So I love that type of thing in Commander, especially if you're running a deck that wants to have a lot of attacking presence when it comes to, you know, equipment or auras or anything like that. The fact that this is on the battlefield, it can hold a sword, kind of, I don't know how, but it can hold a sword, it can attack, and it can also be a counter spell. It's very nice. I would check this one out. It also saved my butt a bunch in pre-release, even though I lost completely all of my games, but it still was very good in pre-release. Moving on to the next one, we have Pactdoll Terror. It is a 4 mana, 3 and a black for a toy, 3/4. Whenever this creature or another artifact you control enters, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So this card can end games in the right deck. If you have something like in the article I mentioned, Lotho, Corrupt Shiref. I feel like I have a cat here or something. If it's showing up, just tell me if I'm close to it. Okay, thank you. I mentioned Lotho because that makes a treasure every time the second spell is cast. But anything that just makes clues, treasures, maps, whatever it is, this will really bring the table down and build you up in terms of life total. But also, I think in just normal-ish decks that run a lot of artifacts, this is a good you know, quality piece to put in one of those decks that helps. If you're dirtling a little bit, you have several, you know, mana rocks or whatever that you're just playing and getting that life drain. It's nice. And I think I have played a lot more games recently where the life total really, really matters, where it's like someone can hit me and they almost can exactly kill me or whatever. So having some incidental life gain is good. And the fact that this is a common, you probably have several of them lying around. Moving on to some multicolored spells. Sky Serpent Seeker. Say that 3 times fast. I'm not going to. It is a Simic card doing Simic things. A flying Death Touch 1/1 with Exhaust 4. And you reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal 2 land cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped. and the rest on the bottom on a random order, and put a 1/1 counter on this creature. I cover it in the articles. I'm sure you've heard about it. Exhaust is something that you can only do once, not just once per turn, once per game. It's kind of like Monstrous. This is very much like Monstrous because you get that counter. But the fact that this is a 1/1 flying death touch is just going to be such a menace. You play it on 2, people don't want to attack into you. If they do, it's like, how much do they want to ramp and how much do they want to kill, my value creature? It's always nice having a death toucher. It's probably my favorite main keyword. And then the fact that you can do the exhaust ability at instant speed. So say somebody does attack with their commander, you have that 4 mana up, you can block and exhaust. It might die, the counter might save it, whatever it is, it's just a tricky thing that you can do. And I am really liking, if anybody from Wizards is watching, I'm really liking the type of ramp that you go until you hit a land from the top of your library. It's not the best for fixing your colors if you're trying to hit a specific mana color or type, but it does help the game speed along a lot faster. I was playing in a game last week and we had several green players, and every turn we were all shuffling our libraries. I fetched and I ramped in one turn and I forgot. I'm like, oh, can I just go here? I'm just going to find the other one. Just shuffling, it takes so long, and I like this type of ramp. So Sky Serpent Seeker, go ahead and check it out if you haven't already. Voyage Home has a huge mana cost, but there's a reduction. It's 5 white and a blue for a sorcery, affinity for artifacts, and you draw 3 cards and lose 3 life. So affinity for artifacts means it costs 1 less for each artifact you have in play. So again, kind of like Pactdoll, this is very, very good in an artifact deck. But I think in general, if you just happen to have a bigger mass of artifacts and a different strategy as well, this might be able to fit in too. I think if you can get that cost that you're casting it for down to 4 mana in total, so 2 white blue, that puts it on par with Harmonize and Ambition's Cost, a lot of 4 mana draw 3s that we see all the time. So and again, it gives you a little bit of life, like I talked about, is nice nowadays. So I think that it will be a bigger value player than a lot of people just looking at that mana cost going, just look at your deck. If you have a lot of artifacts, this should probably go in it. The next one, I have a question to pose to you, and I post it in the articles as well, is Ticket Tortoise. So 2 mana, 3/1, Defender. When this enters, if an opponent controls more lands than you, create a treasure token. So the question I am offering to you is this card good? Because it is catch-up ramp. It is, like Knight of the White Orchid and other things that check how many lands other people have, and then you do something. But what Ticket Tortoise does is it doesn't add lands to your board. It gives you treasures, which are disposable, but when you do something like Knight of the White Orchid and you're trying to blink that or something along those lines, eventually you are going to have as many lands as somebody else, and you can't keep ramping. At least with this, colorless artifact turtle, you're allowed to blink it over and over and just keep getting, I was about to say tickets, treasures. So is it good? Is it good enough? Are you running it in any decks? It's only 2 mana too, and 3/1 is kind of a big blocker. I don't know. This is one of those cards that reads confusing to me because it does a lot of things that are good that we already play, but at the same time, it's not as good as those things. The fact that it's colorless is why it's here. It's the fact that it can go in any strategy, blue, white, red, black, anything that's not green, it can go in there and help kind of give you some mana. So I don't know. You tell me in the comments, please. Moving on to the bulk rares. I define bulk rares as follows. A rare, usually under $1, that often gets overlooked during deck building and by default doesn't see much play. So the main thing there is it's cheap. It's the type of stuff that you just filter through in somebody's bulk or somebody's binder or even your own that you just overlook. and the price is low, it becomes a bulk rare. So all of these are under $1 or around $1. Starting things off with Waxen Shape Thief. Is it wax? I can't really tell. But it is a 4-mana shapeshifter with flash, and it enters as a copy of an artifact or a creature you control. It also has cycling for 2. So the fact that it doesn't clone anything on the board is a little bit of a drawback. But if you are running a strategy with a lot of really powerful artifacts that you want copies of, or you have creatures that are non-legendary, or even your commander that you, because this has flash, somebody's going to remove your commander, you flash this in, sacrifice your commander and make this a copy of it with the legend rule. You know, there's some tricky stuff. The fact that it has flash is what's really interesting to me, and also that you can copy an artifact. There's a lot of powerful artifacts right now, so it's something to look out for. Cycling for only 2 mana is incredible. If you don't have anything that you want to copy, you can just throw this away and get a new card, which is very, very nice. But I wouldn't overlook this one. I think in the article I mentioned clones that you can clone anything on the board, which you might think is, you know, really great, and I should only be including those. But if you're including those clones to clone your own stuff only, not to steal, you know, other people's effects, if you're mainly putting them in just to copy your stuff, then putting that on a flash one that also can get an artifact or have cycling, it is pretty good. So don't overlook that wax thing, if it is wax. The next one is Lumbering World Wagon. 3 mana when it enters, or I will say, it has crew 4 and its power is equal to the number of lands you control. When it enters or attacks, you may search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. So more shuffling. But I think this one's worth it because it's 3 mana ramp, which we already play all the time with Cultivate and that type of thing. But it is repeatable. I know 4 for the crew is a little bit high, but I think in green you can throw some creatures in there and you'll be able to attack. The fact that you can play it on 3, let's say, ramp that land, and then crew it, attack, ramp, and you're ramping every single turn. Yes, that's a lot of shuffling, but also it's a lot of value over the course of the game, and you're growing its power every single time that you attack. And you're getting those more lands, and I think that that will almost help you propel yourself ahead, not only in mana but also on the board, because you are attacking with a big beater over and over and over again. So you're almost weaponizing that ramp. So I would give this one a shot because I think it could be pretty powerful. And then closing things out with Spectacular Pile Up. It is 3 white for a board wipe. All creatures and vehicles lose indestructible until end of turn, then destroy all creatures and vehicles, cycling for 2 as well for that one. So white is already very crowded when it comes to board wipes. I know that, but the fact that it has cycling sets it above a lot of board wipes, if you ask me, and that it makes things lose indestructible is also such a big boon to this power level, because of the fact that if I'm thinking of this right, if somebody tries to give something indestructible in response, that can happen. Then Spectacular Pile Up is still on the stack, and it will see that that has indestructible and take it away. So it's one of those things that I think it will be a big gotcha moment. And if you're a fan of those, kind of like I am, this card is there for you. And also, if you're ahead on board, if you're doing well and you don't want to fully sweep things, the fact that you can just throw it away for 2 and draw a card, I think that I talked about this recently with somebody off mic, not in public, but I was talking about the fact that cycling is so good, but you don't really notice how good it is, because when you're playing a game, you don't often go, hey, on turn 5, I cycled a card, which drew me a card that I needed, and then I cast that card, and then 3 turns later, it helped me win the game. You don't often think about that. It's just one of those things of, oh, I throw that away. Oh, hey, that's pretty nice. And you remember the card that you drew. But when you have something with cycling, it is just so flexible when you don't need it. And it always is terrible when, you know, say this is in your opening hand and you love your hand, but you don't want this board wipe just sitting there for most of the game. You can throw it away. Or late game when you need just a big pump spell to end the game and this isn't going to help with that, throw it away. And I think the effect that it has for 5 mana is a great board wipe. That's how I'm going to end this. I don't know, you know, in terms of what deck that this should definitely go in. You'll see in my article when I added this, and I do deck suggestions for each one. There's not like a specific deck that like this spectacular pile up is perfect for that strategy, that deck. It's just a good board wipe. And I think it's a flat, a good casting rate, as well as having the cycling. I'm just rambling about this. I think it's better than some people are saying. And there's going to be a lot of people out there, this is my prediction, who don't think this card is good. And then, you know, months from now, somebody's going to cast it and they're going to be like, wait, hold on, why are you playing that card? And then realize that their indestructible stuff is being killed, you know, X, Y, and Z. So I think it'll still do those gotcha moments. And the people that it's going to get are the ones who think this card is bad. So thank you for spending some time with me in the fort. I hope that you enjoyed seeing some cool cards from Aetherdrift. I don't know. I'm happy to be moving past this set so I don't have to keep feeling like I'm saying it wrong. But I hope that you own some of these cards and now you can put some of those cards in new homes. So if you want to see even more great budget commons, uncommons, and rares, you should check Bulk Up on Commander's Herald. And also, I started a new article series for Commander's Herald that you should check out soon. And I may or may not be making a video around the article that I recently released. So if you don't check it out there, be sure to be checking your YouTube feeds because I'll be back talking about one of the new dragons coming in Tarkir and how you can make a deck around it, or at least some good singles to buy for it. Bye, and see you next time in the fort.